is up, my fellow cinephiles? Hope you're doing all great today. Personally, I got out of jury duty today, so I know I'm doing great. My name's Tyler, aka TheMovieMason, and I'm going to be coming at you again here today with another video. It will be my first of a regular series I'm going to call Spotlight videos. And what I mean by Spotlight is I would like to focus a spotlight. Usually I can't imagine another scenario where it's not going to be an actor or director, and just introduce or recommend some of my favorite films by that said person. The occasion today is a bit of a grim one, a bit of one on the unfortunate side of things. And as I'm sure many of you have heard, a couple days ago, we lost veteran actor William Hurt. William Hurt was nominated several times throughout his career for Academy Awards. He was a big personality, big actor throughout the 80s and 90s, and worked all the way till the end of his life. So these movies aren't necessarily ranked. I'm just going to present them in the order that I would rewatch them in this moment of time. That doesn't necessarily determine my favorite of them or the quality, but it certainly influences where I would place them. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. This first movie is a big cast, hangout, chill movie, and that's why they call it The Big Chill. You know, they got a bunch of people, a big cast right there, and they're all hanging out and chilling. You see, it's so clever. But anyways, this one's from 1983. Like I'm mocking right now, it involves a big cast full of actors who went on to have big careers. Jeff Goldblum's in this, Glenn Close is in this, Meg Tilly's in this. I don't think she went on to have a spectacular career, but she was kind of big at the time. She was coming right off of Psycho 2, I believe. I don't know, that's a weird movie to reference. But yeah, William Hurt fits right in with this cast, fits in right with this cast of people. It's a much more grim than I'm making it out to be. This big group of people, they're all college friends. I believe this takes place about 10 years after college, when they're all kind of, maybe a little bit less, but they're all in that kind of awkward phase of their lives where, like, they're definitely not kids anymore, but they're still young adults, and they're still trying to figure things out. And they've came together because of the suicide of a former colleague or someone they went to school with, and they're all getting together after all these years. And obviously, things have changed in your life. You're not the same person you were 5 years ago at probably any point in your life, especially not in your early 20s to your late 20s or early 30s. And there's a lot of little interesting dynamics in this movie. There's like existing like tensions and competing interests and sexual flings between characters that haven't really resolved since college, or they're being picked up again. I believe William Hurt plays a Vietnam veteran in this film, and he's coming back where he's kind of he kind of can relate to not both sides of his friends, I should say. There's some people in this movie that went on to be very successful, like their characters in the movie, I mean, where they're very successful people. Then you have some people on the lower end of things that are kind of drifting and more lost than the other ones. Some dealing with work influence problems, some dealing with personal issues, and it's kind of like a more adult, a little less, it's not as funny, it's more mature than something like Dazed and Confused, but it's the same type of like big cast hangout movie. There's some laughs, but it's more like a personal growth tale. I don't think you can really call it like a coming of age tale. But this movie kind of resolves itself a little weird. Since there's so many different people, they kind of have to they try to bookend everyone else. Like one of the storylines is kind of whack. It's not very long. It's 105 minutes. Lots of actors that went on to do big things in this movie. It's directed by Lawrence Kasdan, who made another movie or two in his day, was a multi-time collaborator with William Hurt. This was early movie in his career, and yeah, I would definitely check this one out. Definitely worth the watch. That's The Big Chill from 1983. Next up, we have a very, very, very interesting movie. It's definitely on the dark side, and there's moments in this movie that are very shocking. It comes from a director who I spoke about my Criterion Hall that I said was really known for his provocative nature, and definitely is someone who has intrigued me. And that is Ken Russell, and this is his film Altered States. This was actually William Hurt's on-screen debut. I believe this film is from 1980. William Hurt plays a professor in this that's studying the effects of sensory deprivation. So he has this sensory deprivation tank, it's like basically a big tank filled with water, and I'm sure you know what sensory deprivation is. But he's studying the effects of those over long periods of time, the levels of depth you can get into it. There's a little bit of science talk that I don't really understand, and he meets another scientist, a woman, who then begins to have a romance with, and they work together on their projects and converse about that in like an intelligent scientific way that he does that you can't really get from someone that's not knowledgeable of a type of field like this. But Ken Russell plays the classic obsessed with his work character, and you see him devolve more and more as the effects of the deprivation that he's finding start to influence him in different ways. There's some there's a crazy sequence in this movie. It's something that's so effective when it's done right, where it's like almost like you step out of the movie and like you're watching something else, and that's one of the sequences where he like really like falls down the rabbit hole in his during one of his experiments in the tank, and you see all this crazy stuff like shocking imagery, scary imagery. It's almost haunting. A good film you could compare it to is The Parallax View with Warren Beatty. There's a sequence where he's shown like a propaganda video, and it's like chilling. Just watching imagine the screen is like a TV screen, and you're just like watching images like through his eyes, and that's the kind of scene that this is. And it's super effective. No, I'm not describing it that well. You just have to see it. This film kind of loses itself in the third act, I think. I was very mixed on how it ended. I've only seen it once. It's probably something I would rewatch, because you ever watch a movie that you think to yourself, like, this movie's so good, and then the ending just seems not great, and you almost just feel like you would have missed something, because it doesn't seem like the movie would end like that. It seems so silly if the first part was so good that you just feel like you must have missed something, or there's something you don't understand why the film went in this direction. And that was definitely something like this for me. But the sequences I was speaking of, like in the tank, and the subject matter, it's very interesting. And definitely something, if you're into sci-fi horror movies, you should absolutely check out. And again, it's his on-screen debut. Does a great job with his performance. I didn't know it was on-screen debut until I did a little research for this list. I remember thinking he did a great job when I saw it. So definitely a standout from the start. That's Altered States, Ken Russell, 1980. Next up, we got another movie from Lawrence Kasdan. This was actually Lawrence Kasdan's directorial debut. It was made a year after Altered States, and that's the neo-noir film Body Heat, where William Hurt stars alongside Kathleen Turner, who was also a young actress at the time. It went on to have a long and great career. This movie is very inspired and very similar to the Billy Wilder film Double Indemnity. Hard word to say, but very good watch. Love neo-noir movies. I love noir films. It's set in one of the southern states. I'm just going to say Texas. I'm not completely sure. One of those like hot as hell southern states. And that was one thing that really stuck out about the movie, and kind of a double entendre at the title. It's one of those movies that they did such a good job like portraying like the environment and the heat, that you can just see the sweat dripping, and it's like almost like you can feel they're there. Like you can feel the atmosphere in this movie. And for a movie like this, where there's like lots of dark and sexual undertones, it's really effective. William Hurt plays a lawyer in this movie who meets Kathleen Turner at a bar, I believe, something like that. And it's kind of this just like I'm hot shit type of guy, and he gets tangled up with her. She has a husband who is very rich, so they begin an affair, and she conspires to have him kill her husband. And the film kind of plays out like a stock neo-noir for there, but that's not meant to be a knock in any way. It's got all classic elements. It's a fun watch. I remember this movie doing a really good job at building tension. It's one of those movies where like you don't see her life with her husband outside. It's just all spoken about, and then you finally see it, and it's like this big showdown that you've been waiting for all movie where the movie finally finds its ending. And the husband's played by Richard Crenna, who I've seen in a good handful of 50s and 60s movies, so it was really cool to see him in a late role with that as well. Definitely a good watch if you like neo-noirs or noir films. Definitely check this one out. That's Lauren Kasdan's 1981 film, Body Heat. This next film comes from one of my very favorite directors. It's from the year 2005, and that is David Cronenberg's A History of Violence. This is a great film. This was kind of one of the first films once David Cronenberg had long set, the first 20 years of Cronenberg's career, he made like all sci-fi horror movies, and they're all fucking good. So good. And then he kind of switched into more like dramatic, like dramatic territory in the 90s, but kept to the same type of energy and the same type of weirdness that was displayed in spades in his horror films. That's something that really sets him apart from a lot of the other masters of horror for me, even though only half his career was horror movies. And he kind of evolved away from that more and more, but still kind of kept that stamp in the 2000s. This is one of his first movies that really exemplifies that well. William Hurt is not the star of this movie. In fact, he's actually only in like one scene. But the movie's great. It's awesome. It's such a scene. It's so badass. For that one scene, he got nominated for an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. The star of this movie is Viggo Mortensen, who plays kind of just like your everyday family man. I believe he owns a small business in it, has a wife, has some kids, and then some robbers. I don't think they're robbers, but they're robbers, I believe, come into the establishment. He's working as like a coffee shop or something, and he like springs into this like militant defendant and just gets a hold of a gun in the scuffle of these people invading. He just pops all the criminals, and it gets himself exposed on the local news, and people are already a little tipped off. Like, how did this guy just suddenly like become this like not martial arts, but become this brawling expert and was able to get himself out of the situation? You can kind of chalk it up to just an incredible act, fueled by adrenaline, but that's not really the case, because then some other people from his past start coming around. A very menacing Ed Harris, talking about identifying him as a different person because they now saw him on these on these news station interviews, and they're adamant he's from this big city. It's something like Philadelphia or Pittsburgh. It's one of those. It's a big city. It doesn't matter. But they're adamant you're this person. He used to be part of some crime ring, and it keeps alluding to his brother wants to see him. And there's this movie. It's only like 100 minutes long. It's not a very long one, but like 3/4 of this movie, maybe not that much, but a large majority of this movie is really built up to him finally meeting his brother, and William Hurt plays his brother. And they have this meeting in this like big office, and it's just such a chilling conversation. You learn the truth about everything, and it's just fucking great. He really blows it out of the water, and I'm glad the Academy will nominate people for like one scene if they really kill it. I know another movie that happened was Doubt. The actress escapes my name. She's very, 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 very talented actress, but that was another time. This one was just nominated for a single scene. William Hurt did as well. Definitely a movie I would like to rewatch. I've only seen it the one time, but it's been on my radar to rewatch for a while. That's the 2000. What's the year is this from? 2005 film History of Violence, David Cronenberg. All right, now this last film I actually rewatched today, so I could make this video and talk about this movie intelligently. And I do think of all the movies I'm going to talk about that this is the best movie of them all, and definitely my favorite. William Hurt was the star of this film, along with two others. It was like almost like 3 stars. I don't know how they broke it up, but anyways, this is another earliest career movie. This is the 1987 film from James L. Brooks' Broadcast News, and everyone in this movie knocks it out of the park. This movie, the strength of this movie is by the three leads. He was also nominated for an Academy Award in this film, along with his co-stars Holly Hunter and Albert Brooks. And it's a great drama. It's supposed to be kind of like a rom-com, but I would never call it that. It's sprinkled in like moments of dry humor. They really do a great job of breaking up the tension of the movie. And there's like it's a sort of kind of a romance story, but it's not. It doesn't have like any of the cliches in it. But man, it's a great film. It's much more of a drama I was really enthralled by the story. It was great. It was better even the second time watching it again. This film's about a broadcast station, a news network, and William Hurt kind of plays the pretty boy jock that doesn't really know a lot but gets his way because he's just so wonderful at doing what he does. Holly Hunter plays a broadcast producer, and she's very, very particular, very to schedule, very controlling. And then you have Albert Brooks, who's someone who works hard. He's very knowledgeable in his field, but he just doesn't have the chops of it. It's really a good play on the nice guy card, because this whole movie, it's just apparent from the start. Albert Brooks' character is playing the nice guy, and he's been holding the torch for Holly Hunter's character forever. And you can tell, like, they're good friends, and that's all it is to her. But she's a lot more enthralled by the William Hurt character, even though he goes against everything the two of them claim they hate about the journalism world, pushing people that are just great at delivering the news, narrating it, if you will, just style over substance. And I believe that Holly Hunter's character is more genuine in her intentions, and Albert Brooks' character is he's very bitter. He wants to be the person that William Hurt is in this film, and he's not honest with himself to understand he's not that person. William Hurt ends up being the most genuine character in the film, and I think that's like a big standout. He never pretends. He knows more than he knows. He doesn't have this style where he didn't, not style, I should say. He doesn't really have this aura that you'd expect from a person of this type, or how this movie likes to portraying him through the eyes of Albert Brooks' character. And it's just the way these different personalities, intentions move with character decisions, sabotage, all the things that come with it is really brilliant the way it moves together. There's some really great photography in the way this movie's put together. There's a part in the film where they end up putting William Hurt on a new set as kind of a quick anchor for something unplanned, and his producer is Holly Hunter, who the sparks are flying with right now, and she understands he's not ready for this thing, and he's just being pushed into it because he's the face that fits it. And Albert Brooks does a lot of the homework, and on paper, he's the one who should be in there, but the network is going with the person who they feel is the most appealing. And there's this really brilliant scene where they're filming this, where William Hurt is linked up to an earpiece, and Holly Hunter's in the booth, and Albert Brooks is depressed at home on his couch, and he's calling in things to Holly Hunter to get him to say this. And it really demonstrates the dynamic of him working hard, somebody else taking credit, while he's giving off basically the homework to the girl he's holding the torch for. And there's this really brilliant shot with the cinematography where you're watching Holly Hunter in this booth look down on the filming deck where William Hurt is, and the camera just zooms all the way down, and it does this really cool thing where it slowly rotates and then around the back, and you see the earpiece for the first time. You know it's there, but you see it for the first time hooked up through his back, hooked up into his ear. And in the same shot, you see Holly Hunter all in her booth up top, kind of like at a sports game, like the owner looking down from their clubhouse booth. And it's a really cool shot demonstrating the power dynamic and how things are being. I mean, you also get to see the inner workings of a news station, which was really interesting. They make a great job making this movie interesting, and there's kind of like a big like blowout collision that happens towards the end of the movie, and ends up resolving itself very nicely and leaves all the characters in a good place. And it was something I really enjoyed, and I will definitely watch this movie again. That is the 1987 film Broadcast News from James Brooks. So that's all I got for you today. Thanks for stopping by. Go ahead and like and subscribe, and I'll have more stuff for you. See ya.